So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my iPhone 12 Pro 1 year later. Now keep in mind that this phone is no longer officially for sale at Apple stores currently, and it's now been replaced by the iPhone 13 Pro. However, this might still make for a pretty good deal for those of you who are looking for a Pro phone and want a discount. I see it hovering right around $750 to $800 on the used marketplace. However, some people are going to say, well, what the heck would I get that when the 13 just came out? It's around the same money. Well, you're not going to get a Pro body or a Pro feel with the stainless steel edges, the matte texture back. If you want this more premium build and you don't want to pay $1,000 for it, the 12 Pro remains a solid option. And when it comes to the body, what does it feel like 1 year later? Well, it doesn't feel much different than it felt last year. It feels like $1,000,000 in your hand. You got the stainless steel around the edges of this phone. You have that matte textured back, that glass that just looks clean all the time. Yes, up here in the camera housing, as with the 11 Pro, as with the iPhone 13 Pro, you can get quite smudgy in there. You have to wipe this down. But the Pacific blue color here was quite beautiful. Some people even say they like the dark blue more than the newer Sierra blue, but some people are like, no way, I love the Sierra blue. It's really subjective. However, I gotta say, it's a lighter Pro than the iPhone 13 Pro, a little bit heavier, I think, than the iPhone 11 Pro, around the same size. But the phone itself feels great. It still feels amazing. It's 6.1 inches, so it's a little bit bigger than, the iPhone XS, as well as the 11 Pro that was 5.8 inches. So it's still a pretty good size, same size as what most people are buying right now in the iPhone 13 models. So yeah, body is strong. It feels good. Ceramic shield. Nothing really to say much. 1 year later, the only thing I think is when I grabbed the 13 Pro is that I bought the same phone. That's basically what I think comparatively to this phone right here. So 1 year later, it holds up exactly like what you would expect. Okay, so let's talk about display. Now, this is an area where the iPhone 13, the regular 13 of this year, does have basically the same display. This is 800 nits, which is very bright, by the way. It's brighter than what you'll probably ever need. 460 ppi density. It's literally the same as the iPhone 13's display. It has 60 hertz, and that's crazy because that's the big jump to the 11 Pro or to the 13 Pro and Pro Max, is that you're getting that brighter, more smooth 120 hertz, and it's something that you cannot say here about this phone. But it's still very good. If people are still buying the iPhone 13, then there's no reason why this is not still great. This display right here. Now you will see that you do have the wider notch. The notch, if we've been used to this kind, and then Apple brought this skinnier one, so that's a difference on the overall panel. But I gotta say, I've never been disappointed with the actual quality. It's very strong, colors look great, accurate text, and 1 year later, if you pick this up, it's basically like picking up the iPhone 13 display with a more pro and premium feeling body. But should you be concerned about the software? And the answer is absolutely not. It still runs iOS 15.1 right here, and it's going to get 15.2 and so on and so forth. The 12 Pro is only 1 year old, so that's nothing for Apple land. You got 4 years more support, so it's not like it's a bad choice if you decided, you know what, I don't want the 13s, I'm gonna go find me a 12 Pro. It's just not. You get in the same software across the board here. The only reason that this seems like a weird choice is because Apple takes it out of the lineup and people don't see it in the store. They think it doesn't exist really anymore. Like, it's just that every time they come out with a new phone, they got to replace it, because it kind of wouldn't make sense for them to keep manufacturing and producing, this device when the newer Pro is very similar. So it's just not a good, business move for them. But overall, I would say that if you pick this up in terms of software, you're going to like the same features that you're going to enjoy on the newer phone, and you're going to get them for several more years. So very good here. And the iPhone 12 Pro did bring 6 gigabytes of RAM standard to this device, meaning that you have more RAM than you'll find on the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini, which is an incredible thing because Apple tends to reload applications if you have a lot open. It doesn't happen very rarely if you're only using a couple at a time, but if you are power using the phone, this one has more RAM, and that's across the lineup. In addition to that, I will say that this one right here does give you 128 gigabytes standard in an Apple A14 Bionic chipset. So the performance on here, I never even was able to stretch or push this to the limit, and they come with the A15. It's like, users are not even using the power that Apple's providing on these phones for the most part, yet the power keeps getting better. So it only benefits you, and even if you're not using it, it just makes your phone overall smoother. So A14, a very indistinguishable performance from the A15 across the real world, meaning that I think most consumers would never even see any of the differences. You know, you could put them in a benchmark, whatever. It's only going to be seconds different in a render as well. So I will say this phone, incredible performer, and still has really good storage options. 128 gig at the cheapest price point is still solid. You can go all the way up to 512 gig, same as the iPhone 13. So discussing the camera of this phone, we have a triple 12 megapixel camera in here, and something that people didn't like about this one versus this year is that Apple did make a couple of sacrifices over the bigger iPhone 12 Pro Max. Number one, it doesn't have quite as much zoom, and in video there was a little bit better stabilization. Other than that, you have like 90% of what the iPhone 12 Pro Max camera was, which is saying a lot. You have 4K 60 on here. You can do 4K 60 HDR video as well, which is a more professional grade video. And on the front, you have that 12 megapixel 60 camera. We're used to 4K 60 camera from all the iPhones all the way up until now, the 13. So the same camera on the front, same quality basically. So there's nothing really bad about this camera at all. Actually, as a matter of fact, it lives up to the name because you can get pro work done on here. Throw in a couple of pro applications like, a manual camera application that will allow you to tweak the ISO and stuff like that. And you have even more granular control over the camera. However, they even have their own modes in here, let you go 16:9, stuff like that. So camera in here is freaking awesome on the iPhone 12 Pro. And I didn't really even care if it got upgraded so much this year, but it was always nice to see more upgrades. That's how good this camera was. So you can take a look at a couple of my samples and let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 12 Pro at 1 year later. Now, one area I can't really brag too much about the iPhone 12 Pro after 1 year is my 2815 milliamp hour battery inside this body. Now, this battery is not very large. The efficiency of iOS does allow the iPhone 12 Pro with regular usage to make it through a full day quite easily. However, anybody who is pushing this on the power user side or using this quite a bit may see this battery make them a little nervous by 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'm thinking if you leave your house at 8 a.m. or even if you don't leave your house, you work from home, you start working at around 8 o'clock in the morning, around 8 p.m. at night, you are going to be a little bit sweating like it's time to put some charge on this phone. It might be in the 30s or 20s, maybe even 15%. That's what I seen on this phone. Now, if I used camera, I would have much less battery life by afternoon. So if I'm using 4K video and stuff like that, pushing it a little harder, the battery would drain quicker. This is not even close to the iPhone 13 Pro in battery life or the iPhone 13 Pro Max or even the 12 Pro Max. So this is just an okay battery life on this phone. It's not a thing I would say don't get the phone for. It still gets better than some Android phones in this size range. But what I'm saying is that this is not your best iPhone option if you're looking for great battery life. It's pretty good though if you like the overall phone. It's not going to make you super disappointed, but you're not going to be overly impressed either. A couple other things before we wrap it up. Magsafe on here. So yeah, Magsafe charging. You could do fast charging provided the right charger. You do have good phone call quality, better than before, better reception actually strength than before with this device due to this having Qualcomm modems. Once again, 5G in here, which was a first for iPhone, and that's pretty good because it puts you in a more futuristic phone. So this is one of the serious reasons to consider the 12 model year over something like the 11 model year if you're looking for a second-hand device. Is the 5G. Bluetooth connectivity was strong. Overall, the iPhone 12 Pro 1 year later, there's not really a lot wrong with a phone like this because it was $1,000 last year, and yes, it's cheaper now, but we're already at the level of maturity for Apple iPhones. They've been really good for a long time, and the newer ones are just adding little things here and there. It almost reminds me of new cars. You can get a car that's 2 years old, and that car is still going to have most of what you want, Apple CarPlay included. If you want a newer car, you're going to get a few little add-ons, and it's still going to be great. So that's what the iPhone series are like now. It's for pretty much everyone in the lineup. The only ones I would say that are seriously upgraded now are something like the iPhone XR. Has an LCD display. Same with the 11. If you go to something like a 13, those are big upgrades. But 12 Pro to 13 Pro, not major. 1 year later, very strong device. Still recommended, especially if you could snag this from somebody who's trying to just get rid of this thing for even cheaper than something like $600. That would be a steal of a deal. Really good device here. Let me know your thoughts overall on the iPhone 12 Pro 1 year later down below in the comment section of this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the very next episode, and peace.